Hey guys, ZCrazyG here, and welcome to what I guess is my 3,000 subscriber special. First off, I just want to say thank you all so much for 3,000 subscribers. The amount of subscribers I have isn't really an important thing to me, but I'm just happy that people are watching my videos and that they're enjoying them. But the fact that many of you people have subscribed because you want to keep watching my content and you want to get notified on that genuinely means the world, so thank you all so much. So I thought, in order to thank you guys for that, I'd do something that I've been thinking of doing for a while, a Q&A. So I put out a community post asking if there was any questions you guys wanted to ask me, and you guys have given me a few, and so I've got them up here right now. I'm sorry if I can't get through all of these. Some of the questions are a bit similar, so I've had to negate some of the questions as a result, and again, I'm sorry if I do mispronounce any of these names. I will do my best. But anyway, with that, let's get straight into the Q&A. First up, we have Leo Espinosa. Sorry if I mispronounced that. He asks, do you think there should be an Insane Trilogy 2 with Wrath of Cortex, Twinsanity, and Crash Bash, with all of the lost content enhances to the original games, better visuals, and smoother controls? That's a bit of a difficult one. See, the problem with that is that they're all very different games mechanically. Wrath of Cortex is a warp room style Crash Bandicoot game in the same vein as Crash 3. Twinsanity is one big long linear adventure where the levels are all interconnected, and Crash Bash is a party game. It's very difficult to see those games put together as a remade collection. The thing is, with the Insane Trilogy and Spyro Reignited Trilogy, the reason those games could be made together effectively as a trilogy and as a collection together is because all three of their series titles were very similar mechanically. So it made sense to make those three games together, since they're all pretty much the same. Which is why, you know, with these games being very different, it's very difficult to see that being done as a collection. If anything, they were to be remade, it would be as individual games, but the problem is I don't see Activision making the individual games as worthwhile. And the problem is, these games, well, at least Wrath of Cortex and Twinsanity were not as successful and have received very mixed reception, so it's difficult to see Activision justifying to themselves going back to those games. With Crash Bash, I can kind of see them doing it. They're doing that. There's a rumored PvP Crash game in the works, so potentially we could see a sort of Crash Bash remake or successor. I would be happy with that as long as they made enough additions and changes to it. Personally, I would rather see a sequel to Crash Bash rather than a remake. I think Crash Bash as is pretty lackluster, all things considered, but, you know, I would be happy to see a sort of successor to that, like a sequel. I think that'd be really cool. But in terms of an Insane Trilogy 2, I don't see that happening just because of how different the games are and how, you know, these games aren't as universally liked as the original trilogy. Moving on, we have Toasted Tunes. He asks, do you think Twinsanity could get a reimagining to include all the cut content along with the new extra content? Plus, could they potentially find a way to make the game take place after Crash 4 by working something out with Uka Uka returning while still having the evil twins as the primary villains? I don't know. Again, this is the same kind of thing. Twinsanity, while it generally tends to be considered the best post-non-Naughty Dog game of that era, it's still got a very mixed reception. I don't think people realise that Twinsanity isn't, like, beloved. It's still a bit iffy in terms of how people enjoy it, and again, it's hard to justify for Activision just reimagining one game on its own. I know the original director has come out and said he would like to do that, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's all down to Activision. They hold all the cards here. They are the license holders, and again, I can see from Activision's business perspective, it's just not financially viable for them to do Twinsanity just as a one remake. And in terms of making it take place after Crash 4, I don't see the point. I'd rather they not just tack it on to this new canon. I'd rather Twinsanity just be its own thing. Don't try and force it onto this new story that Toys for Bob have tried to create. Next up, we have It's Purple Queen asking, do you prefer the Insane Trilogy or Crash 4 designs, and which character is designed the best in your opinion? Crash 4's designs. I've said this in my unpopular Crash Bandicoot opinions video. I prefer Crash 4 designs to the Insane Trilogy. I just think Crash 4 has much more of a defined style and I think the designs convey a lot more personality and character, simple as, really. I don't think the N. Trilogy designs are bad by any means, they still look good. It's just that I don't think they convey the personality of the series as well as they could. It still looks fine, it gets the job done, but there are some character designs that I think are a bit weird. It's so-so, I think. In terms of which character is designed the best, that's tricky, really, because they're all given a bit new release of life. I do love Entropy's design in Crash 4. I think that's the best Entropy's ever looked. Dingo Dial as well. Dingo Dial looks fantastic in Crash 4. Crash, Coco, Cortex all look fairly well done. They're all fairly average. I mean, Crash's design has never really been that bad, aside from, I think, maybe Nitro Kart, Wrath of Cortex, and Titans is the only designs I don't really like. I don't know, in terms of the best, I'd probably say, yeah, Dingo Dial, Entropy, or, I don't know, Embryo as well. Embryo and Engine still look really good. I mean, I think most of the characters, I can't really single out a particular one that I think is my favourite. Toran2Glitchy now asks, obviously you're a huge Crash fan, but what other games do you enjoy playing? Also, do you have any other hobbies? I'm assuming this is a general Q&A and not just a Crash Q&A. And yes, this is just a general Q&A, and I'm so glad someone's actually asked this, because I know I tend to be sort of interconnected with Crash Bandicoot since that's the main series I cover on my channel, but there are so many other games that I love. Crash Bandicoot is not the only series I play. While I would say it's my favourite game series overall, there's so many more games and game genres that I play. I've got a huge shelf just to the left of me here. It's all my game collection. 3D platformers especially, I love so many of those. The 3D Mario games, Galaxy especially is one of my favourites. 64, I just replayed that recently on the All-Stars collection. Banjo-Kazooie, fantastic games. Oh god, what else? There's so many. Sly Cooper, Jak and Daxter. Oh god, there's so many I could go over. Ukulele, Bugs Bunny Lost in Time, Time Busters, a lot of licensed games that licensed 3D platformers I love. Recently tried out SpongeBob Rehydrated. That was alright, that was a decent game. 3D platformers is what I'm trying to get out. I love those games. In terms of other games, I do really love the Batman Arkham series. That's one of my favourites, and games similar to that, like Shadow of Mordor, Spider-Man on PS4, that is fantastic, that game. What else? Grand Theft Auto 5 is a great one. Medieval. Resident Evil. I love the Resident Evil games. Resident Evil 2 Remake, one of my favourites. Absolutely adore it. I've got so many different games here that I can go over. 3D action games, 3D platformers, action adventure, horror survival. Just there's a lot of genre. I guess I'm also into Call of Duty, but only really the zombies portion. Though granted, as the series has gone on, especially at the end of Black Ops 4 Zombies, I kind of feel like the spark that sort of made me fall in love with that mode has dwindled a lot, which is why I'm really relying on the next COD game, Cold War, to try and reignite that, because my sort of love for it has sort of just naturally faded over time, as you do with some series. Sometimes you just sort of go, yeah, it doesn't really interest me as it used to, which is why with Cold War, with it going back to more of the classic style, I'm hoping it reignites that, but I'm not too sure. I'm still cautiously optimistic about that game, so fingers crossed. And yeah, in terms of my other hobbies, one other thing you may not know about me is that I am really into acting and theatre. I actually did 3 years at acting college in London. Yeah, that's not that you would know that by looking at the channel, it doesn't really show. But yeah, I'm really into performing on stage. Actually, that's kind of one of the reasons I did this. It's to give me a platform to perform and just be crazy and have a lot of fun. It's, you know, just dumb stuff like that. But yeah, I'm also part of an Amjam theatre group where I live. I just love performing and entertaining. That's a big part of what I love doing. It's why I do this as well. It's a great thing to do, and I really enjoy it. But yeah, that's a really great question. Thank you so much for asking that. Next up, Dark DJ Productions asks, a question to separate the fandom. Crash 2 Cortex Strikes Back or Crash 3 Warped? Which is your favourite and why? I have already answered this several times on the channel. It's Crash Bandicoot 2. Mainly because of its bigger focus on platforming, and with Crash 3, I'm not a big fan of the vehicle levels really. I love the animal riding sections, but I find a lot of the vehicles a little bit too much of a deviation from the platforming, and it just takes up way too much of the game. Still a fantastic game, don't get me wrong, but Crash Bandicoot 2 is just an all-round, much more solid and much more focused platforming package for me. TD Sonic then asks, who would you want to see in the base roster for the next multiplayer Crash game? Honestly, as many as they can. I mean, I think CTR did a great job of including as many characters from the series as they could. It was a great celebration of Crash Bandicoot as a series. Granted, there were like one or two just shitty throwaway characters like the babies. I don't really get why they were there, to be honest. I don't see why they can't make, you know, a roster very similar to CTR and expand that. I mean, there are some Crash characters you could put in that weren't in CTR, like quite a few from Twinsanity, and I'm sure there's probably some really obscure ones that if people really wanted them to be in there, they could put in there. So yeah, as many as they can, really. I mean, CTR set a precedent, so why not try and step up from that? B_2 asks, do you think the next Crash 5 will be similar to Twinsanity, like It's About Time is to Wrath of Cortex for some aspects? Not really. Well, I get that It's About Time does take some cues from Wrath of Cortex. Wrath of Cortex is a bit more of a safe play, whereas It's About Time is a lot more sort of innovating and expanding on the original Trilogy formula. I don't think going a Twinsanity route would be the best option, personally. While I still think it's a good idea, I would just much prefer it stays to the linear level-by-level basis that is its precedent, but just innovate more on that and bring new ideas to the table. There was another question coming up which asks a bit more about Crash 5, so I'll go into a bit more detail then, but yeah, I don't really think it will, no, personally. I think it will still stick to the original sort of level-by-level basis, personally. Next question is from Quinn the Funky Man, and he asks, what is the best game out of CTR Nitro Fuel, the Insane Trilogy, and Crash 4? That's not really an easy question to answer because I don't think you can really compare them. CTR Nitro Fuel is a kart racer. You cannot compare those to platformer games, so it's not really fair to put them against each other. And with the Insane Trilogy against Crash 4, the Insane Trilogy is a collection of 3 games, whereas Crash 4 is just its own game on its own. I think each 3 games have their own good merits in their own rights, and I don't think it's fair to compare them. While yeah, I do have preferences, I don't know really. I don't think you can compare them really. I don't think it's a thing you can compare just because of how different the games are, personally. Jack Cottle then asks, what do you want to see in the next Crash game? For me personally, I want new villains. That's actually a really good thing to ask, actually. We haven't got many new characters added to Crash over the years. And what I would like to see, this might be a bit controversial, but I actually wouldn't want Cortex and Uka Uka to be part of it. I know that's a bit strange, seeing as, you know, a spoiler alert, the 106% ending for Crash 4 does show Uka Uka coming back. But personally, I think we got enough of Cortex in Crash 4, and I would like to see what a game would be like without him. Personally, one villain I would love to see take the spotlight is Dr. N. Trance. I think he's a villain with great potential. You could do some really cool stuff with like his hypnosis powers. I think you could do a lot of great stuff with that. I think it would be a nice opportunity to maybe reintroduce Nino and Crunch as long as it was done right and they were just not brought back for the sake of them being brought back, have an actual good excuse to bring them back into the story. But yeah, I'd love them just to do more of the same that they did with Crash 4, innovate on the core platforming mechanics, take us to new locations that we haven't seen Crash go to before. Like, I'd love to see like a modern urban city setting for Crash. That would be so cool. I'd love to see that setting. Just, again, go bigger and better like they did with Crash 4 and just go even crazier with some more but yeah, just go bigger and better with more ideas while still keeping to the core of what Crash was. Next up, we have Chomper Bandicoot, who asks, you didn't talk about your thoughts on Crash getting into Smash Bros. If you did, sorry for my ignorance, but what do you think about Crash getting into Smash, and do you think it's possible? The main reason I don't talk about that is because I'm just not into Smash Brothers. It's not my thing personally. I just don't really play it. Only really if I have like friends around, or if I go to a friend who has Smash Brothers, I'll play it. But in terms about Crash getting into Smash, yeah, that would be fucking awesome. That would be so cool to see. I think with Smash Brothers, it's become, over the years, it's evolved into just more than a celebration of Nintendo's franchises. It's become now a celebration of gaming franchises as a whole. And it seems that whenever a new character gets added to Smash Brothers, it's seen as like a symbolic thing or like a sort of significant thing where that character is now sort of seen as, it's sort of recognition of that character's being seen as an icon of gaming when they're added to Smash Brothers. I don't know why that it's considered that way, but it just seems to be that way, really. And yeah, I think Crash would fit perfectly in there alongside, like, there's many 90s mascot platforms in there. Crash would fit absolutely perfect in there, and I think he's very deserving of it. And do I think it's possible? Of course. Activision have been collaborating with Nintendo with the Insane Trilogy and CTR, and And I presume Crash 4 will come to the Switch in the future, I'm almost sure of that. And yeah, I think it's entirely possible, and I think he would be a great fit for that, so I don't see why he couldn't be in Smash Brothers, really. Next up is Joe I, who asks, do you think that Toys for Bob will continue to profit off Crash for their next major game, like Crash 5, or another remaster, or go back to Spyro for a new game, like how Spyro Reignited came out a year after the Insane Trilogy? I don't really think that's Toys for Bob's decision. They won't, they may have a slight say, but really, it's down to Activision and what they want. Activision controls who works on what. From what it seems, they have Vicarious Visions, Beanox, and Toys for Bob working on their franchises, and they assign who they want to work on a project. Vicarious Visions, of course, did the Insane Trilogy, and I assume after seeing the success of that, they asked Toys for Bob to do Spyro Reignited, and then Beanox to do CTR. I don't know really, and I assume because Vicarious Visions were busy on Tony Hawk Pro Skater, that's why they got Toys for Bob to do Crash 4, sorry. Again, I don't really think that's Toys for Bob's decision. I think if they wanted to keep consistency, yes, they would make Toys for Bob do it, and I don't know, because then who would they hand Spyro to? I suppose maybe Vicarious Visions? I don't know, really. It's a tough one. It is a tough one for how they do it. But again, it's not Toys for Bob's decision. I don't think there will be many more remasters or remakes as such. I think they will go forth with new games. I think it's likely you'll see a Spyro 4 probably in the years very soon. Who will do it though? Again, I don't know. It's not up to Toys for Bob or Vicarious Visions or Beanox. I think the decision lies with Activision and them solely. So Zevexi asks, have you thought about taking an interest in playing some other games, especially since it's Halloween, and would be nice to see you do a let's play of a game like Amnesia? Well, I do play a lot of other games. I have so many other games on my shelf here that I play all the time, but again, because I only really cover Crash on this channel, you guys don't really tend to see that side of me, so I would love to do that. In Halloween, in regards to that, I don't really know. The main horror game series I play is Resident Evil, as I said before in this Q&A, and I don't know, the thing is, I just don't know if a lot of people would watch it. That's my big... There's a question coming up right now, which is the last one, which kind of goes into more of that, so I guess I'll ask it there. But in terms of playing other games, it's tricky, really, because I don't really know if that's what people would want to see or not. Finally, the last question comes from Slightly Taco, who asks, what are the future plans for your channel? Will you still focus on Crash games, or do you already have other games in mind? How many subs do you want to have, and how are you planning on reaching that number? In terms of how many subs I want to have, that I don't really care. I'm just happy with people watching my videos. Yeah, the more subs you have, the more nicer it is, because it means you have a bigger audience constantly coming back to watch your videos, but I'm just happy that people are enjoying my videos, man. That's all I can really ask for in the end. And in terms of what the future plans are, I'll probably discuss this more in a future video, but here's the thing, with Crash Bandicoot, while I understand that's what my channel is based on, I never intended or planned for my my channel to be focused on Crash Bandicoot, and I don't really want it to be solely focused on that one franchise. And the thing is with Crash Bandicoot, I don't think it's a game series where you can just sustain a channel solely on that. I've always wanted my channel to focus more on just gaming in general. I'd love to take inspiration from creators like Cadicris and Scott the Woz and just cover gaming topics in general and just other games. I would love to do that, but it's a very tricky tightrope to walk, as I don't really know if people would enjoy that or if my subscribers would want to see that. For me personally, from a creative standpoint, I would love to do that because it would give me so much more freedom in what I talk about. But while I still absolutely love making Crash content, and I will still do that for a certain amount of time, there's only so much you can do content on this particular series before it just, you're just beating a dead horse, really. You can't make a consistent, good quality content on this one series, at least from my perspective. I'm gonna eventually run out of steam on this series, I feel, and so I do have plans to cover more gaming-centric content in the future, but I'll cover that more in a future video. And yeah, that's about it. That's all the questions I have, or at least most of the questions that I think that weren't too similar, at least, on my community post. And yeah, thank you so much for all the questions you submitted. I'm sorry if I seem to speak too fast or I mumbled. That's just something I tend to do when I'm doing stuff on the fly and on the spot. But yeah, that's it. And I hope you really enjoyed this, and it was great to answer all your questions and just share a bit more about myself and talk a bit more, just be a bit more, you know, just laid back and chilled in terms of just talking about my interest in video games and all that. So thank you so much for all your questions. And once again, thank you all guys, all for 3K subs and just all the support you guys have been showing to the channel recently. It's been incredible and I can't thank you guys enough. So thank you. I can't stop saying it enough. Thank you. I love you guys all so much. Hope you all have a lovely day and take care, guys. Take care. Love you all. Bye. Yeah, I can't really say much more than that. I'm going to stop waffling. Take care, guys. See you all in the next video.